The problem, you have to be 2100 plus to play. The one on Sunday.
Okay, that is the toughest.
Is that a problem and you're 2300?
No, I'm saying most Kenyans will have played.
The mic facing the other way.
This is the way. Alright. So
I'm saying most Kenyans will have played.
Yeah.
The problem is it's 2100 plus. So you find I'm the only one alone who's playing.
Mm.
No, if you have more Kenyans, it will be great.
Yeah. But you know Kenyans have not been playing on light chess.
Yeah.
1 2 text.
Are you able to hear us when we talk like this?
Huh?
Are you able to hear us when we talk like this?
Yeah. I can hear you.
So we'll have to be switching it off and on.
When you do this, when you will you be talking at the same time, both of you?
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's possible because you know it's you don't want
It's an interactive
interaction.
kind of
Exactly. Yeah.
Then just make sure when you talk, you're facing that way. You don't
Yeah.
face each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, when you're talking, it says that.
We face this way so that we are near the mic.
Oh.
Yeah. So perhaps today we have Terrain Chess Academy trials.
We are getting ready to start and we are now just about to begin it, man.
Oh my goodness. Washrooms?
It's there, let me show you.
Yes.
As I look at the players.
Our commentators have taken a break, so we'll be back. Okay, show you.
Yeah,
Yeah, just. Yeah. Straight on your left.
Ai. Steve ameanza kusema mambo mengine.
Asema nini?
Ati anaona ati mimi ndo ndacheza yamo. Anaona ati akienda.
Sasa nafanyaje? Huyu atakomplain peke yake tu. Hakuna amejaribu bado amekaa time yake.
Nani? Oh, Steve. So you'll commentate alone? There seems to be some change of Steve might go. So
Steve might go.
yeah, so I might be the one playing Wayamo. Now even the names there are wrong.
Change.
So I play Wayamo.
Yeah, you can play if he has to go become.
Hey, Methu, now where will I get to the concept? What are you playing? You're playing
E4, I'll play Aleki. Just
Alekin, eh? Good, great.
Be alone.
Yes, that's fine. So I can put this microphone this side, that in case I'm looking up the it's also fine. Sit over. The only thing I'm trying to figure out is where is the stream, the live stream, where is it?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Brian's page.
To Tyrian Chess Academy.
Brian. But it has not gone live yet.
Okay, so we'll see.
So I make the intro.
Yes.
But I remember.
So, George, ako about. Osman, what's up? Okay. Switch in.
We are here at the MOW Sports Club in South Sea. We are going to have a Terry and Chess Academy trial for live broadcast for the first time happening in Kenya. And we are joined by the players Martin Oyamo playing against Joseph Methu, and we've got Daphne Buikali playing against Esther Awinja, Judy. And our commentator for today is Dr. Victor Ngani, right there, ready to take us off. So the games might now begin.
Indeed, thank you, Brian. Very interesting matchup. A rapid tournament between Martin Oyamo and FIDE Master Methu Joseph and Awinja Esther and Daphne Mikali. This will be the first time in Kenya that we are transmitting live commentary to a match as we play. So we'll just have a look and see if the games have started. Indeed they have. And Awinja has started with the move E4. Let's wait and see what Daphne will reply. I expect that she is a symmetrical player, so I'm expecting E5. She shouldn't really take so long to make this move. It's early in the opening. And against Oyamo, E4 has been played by Martin Oyamo, and Methu has played Knight F6, the Alekin, my friends. This is what we are seeing. Now, Oyamo has played Knight C3. Now, I don't really like this move. The ideal, the Alekin has a dubious reputation, I must say, because perhaps after Knight F6, you just play E5, the knight goes to D5, you follow up with D4. The most common reply there is D6, and you can get into the 4 pawns attack. And I honestly think from experience that black struggles quite a bit. But the line they have chosen is also playable, and but I'm afraid it allows black to equalize very quickly, because immediately Methu has replied to the move Knight C3 with the break D4. I mean, it's just comes automatically. And I'm expecting a push to E5 to avoid full equality, but black may push down to D4, and it's a very complex game. Instead of that, Martin Oyamo has played E takes D. So we expect a recapture immediately on D5, which has happened. Let's see what's happening on the other game. And well, we had E4, E5, Knight F3, D6, Bishop C4, E7, and a castle by white. There is, I really would have hoped before castling, maybe white could have tried the move D4. This is why now Daphne plays Knight to C6, stopping D4, not really stopping, but reducing the, controlling the square D4 in part. So it's really difficult for white now to create a pawn duo on D4 and E4. Esther is thinking what the next move would be. Though in rapids, really, you shouldn't have to spend so much time in these early stages. Again, the question is how to complete your development. And there are a number of options here. One possibility is to play the move C3 and then D4, and also perhaps play H3 to prevent the bishop from coming to G4. But this move that Esther has played, A3, I don't quite like it really, because I'm not sure it contributes to development, but it allows for an escape square for the bishop on a2. I think that was the purpose, but you could have achieved this by playing c3, which also prepares the move d4. The most natural move played by Daphne, knight f6, attacking the e4 pawn, but also preparing to castle. If we go back to the Methu game, so after knight to d5, Oyamo played knight e4. I find this move a little dubious because one is moving a piece for the second time in the opening, but it also doesn't pose any challenge whatsoever to black, and black has a very easy development. So the immediate reply that Methu has made is the move e4. So just taking stock of the position in terms of central control, already black has a pawn in the center. It's now attacked the knight to f3, but the pawn is still there. Very easy control of the square d5, partial control of the square d4, and occupation of the square e5. I expect a move such as knight e6, c6, or c7 to avoid the pin, or alternatively the simple move bishop to d6, so that could be taken. So I'm imagining Methu may avoid complications by just playing knight to d7. One drawback of this move, knight e4, is that now black also has the option of playing the move f5 immediately, and within a short span of time, you know, the knight's being kicked around, and I'm not sure if white has an easy way to get out of that. Yeah, it's difficult. I think this is what Methu is thinking about right now, to see if he could play the move f5 and gain more space. So white has to be careful not to fall behind in development, and this comes about by a very simple mistake of moving the knight twice from c3 to e4, where one, it can be attacked and it doesn't really contribute to center control as much as it was doing on c3. As that goes on, we look at the next game. I must say the ladies are playing pretty fast. We left this game after the move a3, knight f6 followed. To defend the pawn, Easter played d3, which is fine. The bishop is already out of the pawn chain, and bishop to c4 was played. Now I'm not sure this is a really good move because the knight cannot follow up with the move knight to d4. In fact, that was stopped by the move c3, and this is what I was saying, that if instead of playing the move a3 on move 5, white had played the move c3, he would have played a different move with greater purpose. Nonetheless, black has castled, and that's the current position. What's going on here? Pretty much the center is similar. We also have well, a slight lead in development for black, I must say, and this is because white has wasted an extra move. She's moved too many pawns, and the particular move I didn't like was the move a3. You can see that on the queen side, white is yet to move the bishop and the knight to active squares, while all black needs to do is to join the rooks and pick it up from there. I would imagine an important break for black in this position would be to look for the move d5. It's quite difficult at the moment because it involves moving the knight away from c6, playing c6 and then d5, whereas maintaining control. So that may be difficult at the moment. White has played bishop to e3, and this is a good developing move. The bishop takes a very active square, also controlling d4 further. Again, that makes the move bishop to d4 a possibility. joining the rooks. That is what Daphne has chosen, by queen to d7. Now, I'm not sure where the bishop would go if it were to be challenged by a3, h3, because picking the bishop for this knight doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a very simple bishop pair to white, and I don't think black would want to do that. So she will probably have to retreat the bishop. Retreating onto the h file could be a little bit offside, so perhaps e6 would be a good retreat. I'd recommend h3 here, really just to make black make a decision with regards to the bishop. Again, if the bishop picks on f3, it helps white's development a little bit, because all she needs to do is to move the knight that's currently sitting on b1, and I think white will have caught up on development. The men are decidedly playing much slower, and Metu played an interesting move after where we left off, which was the move knight to f3. Now f3 was attacking the e4 pawn, and Metu retreated the knight back to b6, which is basically a cheapo. I must say, the idea was that if the e4 pawn were to be picked, then the queen would move to d4, attacking both knights, and there's no defend both of those. Now, that's a really cheap move, really, and Oyamo defended by just playing the move d3. Then knight f6 was knight c6 was played, c3 was played. I think these are too many pawn moves, if you ask me. I really don't think that's a good move, because it leaves the d3 pawn behind in an open file. Now, if black can stop the d3 pawn from ever moving to d4, it can become a problem later. So then bishop e7 will continue development, bishop e2, castle, both sides. The development is fairly similar. I think both sides have wasted a move by moving the knights twice. I'm not sure those moves were necessary. I particularly didn't like the move of the knight back to b6, moving a knight from a central square to b6. For a cheapo, really that wouldn't work, really. I don't think that was a good idea. But now black finishes development with the move bishop to c5. The knight goes back to g3, attacking the bishop, that retreats back to g6. These two players really have a rich history in Kenyan chess, basically the old and the new. Oyamo has been playing chess since the 1970s, really competitively since 1987. In fact, I was chatting with him a little bit earlier, and he mentioned that he won the inaugural ART Open back in 1987. Indeed, since that time, he has won many other tournaments. There was a White Sands tournament in the 90s in Mombasa. He has won quite a number of rapid and classical tournaments in the 90s and the 80s. The other players in the region, Metu is the new kid on the block. I must say that about a year ago, I posted a comment suggesting that Metu would be Kenya's first international master. Now, I'm not sure how things panned out, but he seems not to have continued his development quite actively. I think the last 2 years his performance wasn't as good as it was in the year 2015. But then again in 2017, 2018, he's picked up once again. And we have had, he's had some really strong performances. Currently, Metu is a member of the national team. He will be representing the country in the Olympiads in Georgia. And at the same time, Metu has won almost all the Blicked events, the VM game nights. We were thinking of renaming it to Metu Night, because in the first time controls he's just supremely fast. He has, I think, the highest rating on chess.com and lichess of any Kenyan at 2300, I think, for both 2100 now in chess.com, but he's peaked at 2300, which is a really strong performance. Recently, Africa-wide performances where we have international masters from Zambia, from Zimbabwe, and from Nigeria. He placed 6th, and those are really, really strong tournaments. So we are really optimistic about this young man. So again, both sides have finished their development. I see there's an open D file, and White has moved his queen to the square D, B3. I think this really will create a problem because the pawn on this on D3 is an open file already under significant attack. So I have a feeling that if through natural development, just a move rook to D8 removes the knight on D3 or on D5, White could come under significant pressure because the bishop is really sitting on his G6. Let's see what Daphne and East are up to. Well, we left this at queen to D7, and knight on B to D2 was played, finishing development, and then rook to E8, rook on A to E8. That's interesting, unless Black plans to play F4 at F5 at some point and activate the rook on F8 square. Then queen to B3 was played. This was a big mistake because now knight to A5 is on the board, and that simply means that White has to part with the bishop pair. Bran, I don't know how you see the games going.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gani. Interesting games going on right here. The players are really enjoying themselves. I can see a lot of tension in their faces, and they're really putting up their best foot forward. You see, rightfully, the light square bishop has to go, and then Black will have to suffer. White will have to suffer a lot of conflict because the light squares being a bit weak. But then again, I was trying to imagine what was the idea behind the queen going to B3. I don't see any plan at all in that move. So here, Easter's sort of made an orthodox move that's not going to be very good for her, because in any case, Black has solid defense and is ready to just pounce on the opponent. But let's see how it pans out. Maybe she's planning after the queen moves away and the bishop is taken by the queen, maybe planning to advance on the queen side with B4 and just have the attack on the queen side, because the king side is rather very solid for White. Anything can happen in this game. But you say rightfully, Daphne is an Olympian. This year she's making a debut at the Batumi Olympiad in Georgia.
Yeah.
And Easter also has been promising. She played for the country as a junior player while still in high school. So there is an equally matched game. We are waiting to see who will outbeat the other one. So it's a good test for Daphne, what she's going to explain the Olympiad. It's a good test for Judy, who turns out for the only ladies outfit team in the country, Lighthouse Queens.
Wow.
So we are going to see how it's going to pan out. Maybe as you said about Methu and Martin, Methu is a promising young man who has been winning many tournaments, as you said rightfully. And Oyamo maybe is a veteran of Kenyan chess. We can call him Victor Kotnoi. He's the one who actually taught me how to make the moves and put in my hand the first chess book in my life. And many young strong players have gone through his training. He's an experienced French player. I don't know why he didn't pick that line here. But again, we cannot rule out Methu's ability to counter any attack on his king, because he's also a very young man who is very composed and has got a very deep understanding of chess moves. He keeps up with the latest developments in chess, and like Oyamo, who just nowadays plays Coffee House Blitz. So, Dr. Gani, I'm in for a nice time here as we see how it pans out. Over to you.
Yeah, but Brian, before you leave, I just wanted to ask you, and I've seen Methu has just made a move that sort of negates my comment. He just played the move F6, defending the E4 pawn, but I thought that sort of put his bishop in a difficult, his dark squared bishop in a difficult space. But before we finish speaking, he's exchanged it off, and now the bishop is not as bad as it looked before. But I'm looking at the pawn sitting on D3. Now, I'm surprised that Methu was allowed this pawn to have a future and the possibility of advancing by exchanging on e3 and allowing a pawn to come to d3. Should he have kept the pawn weak and backward and piled pressure on it by bringing the rooks to the open file?
Meto's plan clearly is to play on the light square. You see now you have pushed that pawn to attack the knight and piling pressure on that pawn. He's wanting to take advantage of the light square bishop is rather powerful. You can notice the king has already moved to h8, so there's no much checks that are going to come in terms of tactics. So and he's taking control, he's trying to open a file, semi-open file there, and put pressure on the e3 pawn. So I think he's playing according to what he has in mind. And when that bishop comes in and bear down on the king side, and the rooks takes on the e file, and then the rooks comes opposite the queen on the c file, I think he's going to have a very strong attack against Martin. So it's up to Martin to try to find the resources to defend that position, because his queen, as it is right now, is displaced. But Meto's plan was very clear. His dark square bishop was bad because most of his pawns are on the dark square, so he had just to get rid of it and managed to do that easily. So he's going to have an easy game coming up with a plan. And Martin is going to find it a bit difficult, trying to find good squares for his pieces, finding good square for his rook queen, because it can really be attacked by the move. For instance, he can play there b3 and then just having the bishop oscillating on that long diagonal. So let's see how it pans out.
Yeah, indeed, we've had a transformation in the pawn structure, and many upcoming players don't understand the value of pawns in chess. They are some of the most important pieces, and suddenly you can see that black has 3 pawns on the queen side and 3 pawns on the king side, well connected. But white, on the other hand, has 2 pawns on the king side, a single isolated pawn that is backward on the e file, and then 3 pawns on the queen side. Now, for masters, this is a significant weakness, and we'll see how this plays out. There's a very good chance that this pawn sitting on an open file on e3 could come under tremendous pressure, and because of this, really there are challenges. But it's not a useless pawn, because it's also defending the square d4 and also the square f4. Quite interesting developments in the game. Now, indeed, our local grandmaster, Brian Kidula, has mentioned that Easter represented the country. I think this was in Greece back in 2010 in the World Youth Chess Championship. I think because of the pressures of life and other competing interests, she may not have continued in chess as much as I should have wanted to. But a very, very strong player, you know, playing Dr. Daphne Mikale, who's a pharmacist in her own right and a very avid chess player, formerly of the Kenyatta University, is significant. You can see perhaps a little bit of rustiness, not having played a lot. The move knight a5, picking off the light squared bishop, and suddenly giving black a bishop pair for no reason at all, and especially when not all the light squares on the queen side are fully defended. So we've had some interesting developments after queen to b3, knight a5, queen to b5 was played. The knight picked the bishop on c4 as expected, and then the queen picked the queen on d7, and the knight has just picked back on d7. So we're expecting a pick on c4. The most natural pick, I would imagine, is a knight picking to avoid further weakening of the pawn structure. But it's possible to consider pawn takes, and this is what Easter has done. It's sometimes unusual to pick away from the center. The only reason why this may be significant now is to reduce the chance of black playing the pawn push, which is a break, to d4, d5. Now, this is all well and good, with the exception, you know, the last move that the last rook move that black played was the rook on a to e8. Now, this sent a very strong signal that in future black plans to play the move f5. So the break that one should be more concerned about is not the break d4, but the break f5. Now, I can see why it may have been compulsory to pick with the pawn, because knight pick would have allowed a possible pick on f3, which is giving up the bishop pair, but having breaking up white's pawn struck on the queen side, and that probably was a bigger evil. So perhaps what white has done is important because necessary, because if she had, for example, picked knight times c4, we could have seen bishop takes f3, pawn takes f3, and then this move that has been threatened all along, f5, with the threat of moving on to f4, locking out white's pieces, and very quickly the black pieces moving on to attack the king side. Again, moves like rook to f6, rook to a6, the second rook coming in, knight coming into the f6 square. You know, these are all possible moves that could be played. Now, black has just responded with the move b6. I think this could have been to stop really perhaps just the move bishop takes, but that was unnecessary. Bishop takes a7, that was unnecessary because if the bishop had to take, for example, then now you play b6 and the bishop is locked in, and that bishop will be won just by a simple rook to a8, picking the bishop on a7. Still a pretty tense game. We'll see how it pans out. I would expect black to play f5 at any moment, but I'm also not very happy about this bishop sitting on e7. It's locked in by the pawn, so black sort of needs to find a way to activate this bishop, and this is why perhaps moving the a rook to e8 was not a very good idea. The f rook to e8 would have been better. Then there are options such as bishop f8, g6, bishop coming to g7, and now that bishop has a future, especially after the move f5, and in that case, if white picks, then you can also move the pawn further to e4. All these are complex ideas, but are not impossible. Now the bishop has been challenged. I think a simple retreat to the move to the square e6 will be good enough. And in case the knight goes to g7, at g5, attacking the bishop once again, then this is the chance to exchange off the bad bishop that black has, and that could make his position a little bit easier. Let's see if that's what's going to happen. I'm expecting the move knight g5 right now by Easter Awinja. I was saying earlier that Easter represented our country in 2010 in the World Youth Chess Championship in Greece, and she was one of the promising players then, but then as happens with many people in Africa, chess takes the rear banner and life takes its own course, and other professional commitments take course, and this is partly why you don't see very many strong players playing chess in Kenya and in Africa. But this is changing now because a few strong young players are coming on board. And knight to g5 has been played, attacking the bishop on e6. Certainly white has, if you compare the two bishops, because it's clear that a bishop is falling, the white bishop is needed to protect the light squares in black's camp, so, and the dark bishop is blocked in by the pawn. So really in this situation, it's best for black to pick the knight with the dark squared bishop. This is a much better move than would be allowing the pick of the knight, of the bishop sitting on e6. So I'm expecting any moment now bishop takes g5. As that happens, you can look at the men's game. Initially, the men had started playing very slowly. We are seeing further transformation in the position, and we left this game at they've made quite some moves. We left this game at e4, d times e4, bishop times e4, rook to on a to d1, and bishop queen to e8 was played, and bishop to d3 was played. Bishop picks the knight on f3, g times f3, a further transformation in the pawn structure. And b6 was played. Queen to f5 by white. Queen times e3 check, picking the pawn. King to h1, g6, and queen to e4. Queen to c5, queen to h4, king to g7, queen to e4, rook on a to d8, challenging on the open file, queen to h3, f5 attacking the bishop on e4, and the position we have now is bishop to c2. And indeed, as we had suggested, the weak pawn that was sitting on e3 has fallen, and not only that, white has accepted a further weakening of pawns. And if you look at the pawn structure again, you have further weaknesses of pawns on f3 and also on a2, isolated pawns. An isolated pawn means that there's no other pawn assisting in the defense of that pawn, and so to defend it you need a piece. So the problem with isolated pawns is that you need pieces to defend it, tying down your pieces, but also the square in front of that isolated pawn tends to be a weak square, because you can't chase away a piece that is sitting there using any device. Now you can see that white has a light squared bishop, so the kingside pawns from white have been are on light squares, limiting that bishop, and now black is moving to exchange of all the rooks. He's exchanged on d1 and is exchanging again the second rook. Interesting idea here. I really would not have recommended the change, because the exchange, because you can see the light squared, the white king is weak, and so you need pieces to attack that king for it to make sense. So exchanging of all the rooks was the best move here for white. It was more or less a lifeline. And when you look at the black king, it's not entirely safe. You know, the pawns have advanced, and so if you have a bishop and a queen versus a knight and a queen in a long range position, white would have really good chances of holding. But the move played by Oyamo, rook to g1, is a bad move, if you ask me, as much as he's threatening to pick the pawn on f5, because later on it would allow the possibility of the rook coming in and penetrating on d2. Here right now, all white needs to do is to either move the king away out of the pin, which he has done, king to h8, or perhaps even just move the knight to e7, relocating to d5, eyeing the f4 square. Oh wow, and we forgot something really, really important. Just by moving the king to the wrong square, which was h8, it moved into the pin. The h pawn was pinned by the queen sitting on h3, and now all of a sudden we have the move rook takes g6, and black can't pick back with the pawn because the pawn is pinned, and immediately black wins back his pawn. Now, well, Bran, I don't know what you think of this position.
Well, I don't understand what Metu meant by playing the king to h8, because the bishop now suddenly is very active. He can capture on f5, and then the position might be tricky, but then he has played the queen to f2. The idea being he wants to play the queen to g1 with a check, and then maybe the rook will come on the 7th rank. So Metu is a very tactical player. As you can see right now, if he plays the king to f1, there'll be check, but then the queen will pick, so he has to play to, I mean, it's e1, and then the rook will come back, the attack still remaining. I really don't understand, but there's an attack on the bishop already right now with the queen. So it's a tricky position. What if Metu decides to play, or Oyamo decides to play the rook to h6? I don't know what will happen to Metu. I mean, it's kind of double-edged. I really don't understand what Metu meant by playing the king to h8. I thought he could have just played a simpler move of defending that pawn. But then the bishop can easily pick that pawn, and then the threats will be valid, because can even have a double check, and then the king will just be in problem. I think Metu might go down in this game unless he finds some very active play. which I don't see coming right now. And this time is running down. Oyamo is still behind by maybe 2 minutes, but Meto's time is really taking because you have to think of a very good move on this position. So I don't know. I don't understand what is going to happen here.
Well, I was thinking of the defensive maneuver, rook to g2, attacking the queen, and then I'd imagine that you will play queen to e1, check, and then the rook comes back again to g1, then the queen comes back up again, attacking the bishop. Either, I think most likely a better square will be the same c2.
Wow, that's a deadly move by Oyamo. That's a deadly move because if the queen tries to check on f1, the rook just comes back. There's a threat of the queen playing on f6 with a check, and then that would be very, very bad. I don't know. I don't see any defense for Meto right now. The rook can't even come into play on d7 because it'll just be picked by the queen. I mean, it's becoming crazy position right here. I don't see what's going to happen. Actually, even the rook can't come to d7 because the threat here is the queen going to f6 with a check and then back to follow.
Well, I'm imagining here you pick the rook, because the queen has moved away, so pick the rook on g6.
And then the queen checks on f6, check.
Queen checks on f6. Now that's good for me because I simply move up. Wait, I really can't. Wow, that's a tough.
With the bishop also trying to play on b3 with check if you come to try to come out and mate to follow.
Yeah, that would be.
So it's a bit tricky. It calls for a lot of, unless he looks for, I mean, he can't even look for a draw here. He can't even look for a draw. He has no time actually. He has no time to react to that move whatsoever. It's to me it's almost curtains here for Meto. I don't see any way he's going to run out of this mating combinations that are going to follow.
Wow, a very interesting position, quite complex here because I was thinking, I think the best bet still remains to try and pick the pawn. I'm trying to see the mate combination because picks again, now we're expecting queen to f6 check. And because if you pick, that's going to be a problem. The queen will come down to e1, check, and then the rook can come down to e2 and then exchange off.
And the move has been played,
and
queen to f6 check.
The idea is not to pick the rook on d8 because that's defended by the
It's
knight.
defended by the knight, so the idea is just to put a queen and bishop battery.
Exactly, and to pick the pawn with check. You see, if you were to pick now instead of the check, then
I think that's a mistake because bishop can be played to b3 now. With a check.
Well, I would imagine perhaps you'll have to pick first on g6, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, g6 picks first, and now the way has been cleared, and this looks like curtains for black. I don't think he had much of an option. Let's see if the king has a chance to walk over to the queen side.
It will be a very tricky because if he tries going to e1, the bishop jumps in on g6 and is going to be very crazy. Or he opts to go for the other way around.
Wait, but that may be a mistake. I think at this moment black should play rook to d7. I think
the rook d7 and then the king runs away.
I think that's a lifeline right there that has been given. I think rook to d7 is the only move that can be played.
I thought Martin should have played bishop to g. I thought bishop to g6 check was the best move here in that position.
Yeah, certainly. And
so that the king doesn't have to.
Doesn't have a chance. Yeah. I think picking.
Now he can block, and you see now white black is also trading a checkmate.
Indeed, in that.
On f1, so it has to be. He has to be very careful. I think he might just have thrown his game away, and I would like to see what is going through his mind, through his facial expressions, but we can't tell now. Let's see how it goes. To me, as you say very clearly, I think rook should go to
d7.
d7, cutting off that check, and then the king can escape. Maybe he can get. That's the move that has been played on the board. So I think Meto is going to escape out of prison with this move that Martin played.
A free get out of jail free card. But again, if somehow black is able to avoid the checkmate threats, oh, that's a blunder right there. Look at that. Just wait and see the move that's coming right now. Oh, bishop to. That's a blunder.
What about queen f1? Is that bet?
That's what we're expecting, Brian. Wait, what has happened? Oh, maybe it was a computer glitch. Okay, queen bishop d3 makes more sense. I was surprised by bishop to Oyamo.
Or maybe I didn't release the piece.
Maybe
because it was crazy. That was going to be crazy.
So here we are. Oh, and it's really bad because it's just losing the bishop right away.
He's just losing the bishop.
Losing
He
the
does
bishop
check,
right
the
away.
bishop is gone, and with it, the game is
Losing the
gone.
bishop
Oh,
and-
Martin had a good chance to wrap up this game, but then I think
this is just a matter of
his greed got better of him. He has been known to gobble up pieces and going for and clear positions that when he misses the most obvious move. Now this one meant to just come up with it, and he should be winning any time now. Once he gets out of the pin, the rook can come into the game and it will be all over.
Oh.
It's all over for Martin. Maybe we should turn over and see the other
Yes,
ladies'
let's see
game.
the ladies, see what's going on. This is just a matter of time before we see resignation. And the ladies' side, what's the situation now, Brian? Let's do the count. It's equal pawns, both sides, knight and bishop, equal minor pieces. The only difference is a structural difference, where the white has a double pawns on c3 and c4. At the same time, we have bishops of the opposite colors. Now this can be significant in many variations because it's known to be relatively easier to hold an endgame where the bishops are opposite colors. However, in the middle game, it's a completely different story because what it means is that the bishop of the opposite color can attack a square that can't be defended by the other minor piece. And so in this situation, what's important is piece activity.
Yes.
So whoever is able to get their pieces to more active squares stands a better chance. So
I'm just only looking at the position right now. You see, white's bishop can't do much. The black pawns are very defending each other, and the knight cannot make any headway towards attacking these pawns here. And the rooks are going to be traded off, and he has just made that move to f8, and they're going to be traded off, and the king will be whichever kings come up very active will be able to hold the position. I see a draw in this game, unless otherwise.
certainly,
Given the time pressure on both players' sides, they're coming up with a clear winning plan might be a bit tricky.
I'd imagine they have about 5 minutes each to go, 4 minutes, 50 seconds. So it's equal time. But certainly I agree with you, Brian. If the rooks are exchanged, then this will most likely end in a draw, bar some crazy mistake by any of the two players. But still, there's the option of exchanging a bishop for a knight in the course of the game, which would completely transform this endgame. We're yet to see what the plus will be.
But you can see black now is going to activate his king and just come to the queen side, and the king side is rather safe. I don't see how those pawns be attacked. I don't see much progress in this game, and maybe let's see how the players go ahead. But to me, I'll just play simple, safe, simple chess and just get a draw, and that would be a big boost to Easter, who is an upcoming player who is very determined to make in the national team in the near future. And maybe a psychological blow to Daphne, who might have thought maybe despite having the black pieces, I should have been able to convert this game, saying that it's only a matter of maybe 1.5 months away or 2 months away before I go represent my country. Maybe she was looking to cement her position as being an authority in chess. But then, again, as we say, you can never underrate anybody. These players are at the same level, just that maybe one didn't participate in the qualifiers. And Judy has been working very hard of late. I've been training with her, definitely. I'm not boasting, but it's true. She has been putting a lot of efforts, and she's very much determined to make the team. And Daphne too, she was my teammate at Equity Chess Club, and she's pulling good results in the past. So maybe, depending on how they understand the end game, I mean, structurally I see as if there's going to be a draw, but then time pressure is on both players' sides, so you cannot rule out any possibility of a surprise happening in this position.
Yeah, indeed. I must say that this is a really strong showing by Easter to hold Daphne Mwikali to a draw. If that's how it goes, will be quite an achievement. And certainly, Easter has every reason to be proud about her performance right now, because Daphne Mwikali is certainly one of the strongest players in this country. She finished second in Kenya Open 2018, and that was a very, very strong tournament that had the best players in Kenya, the best players in East Africa really participating, and she has been consistent in her performance. So to more or less hold Daphne Mwikali to a draw is a big testament.
And she is a very passionate player. She takes her losses very personally because she is cut out for winning. And I like that attitude, because with that kind of attitude, you can go places. And as it is right now, the Kings are moving to the center of the game, and I don't see much happening in this game, and time is taken down. Maybe the clocks will run down and the players will agree to a draw.
Brian, I'm sort of changing my opinion a little bit. You know, if this were a classical game where you have all the time to work out the complications and the nuances, then for sure it will be a draw. But I'm looking at the time situation with one player having 3 minutes 50, another 2 minutes 40, then time can certainly become a big factor in this game. And if that happens, then I can't rule out having some blunders taking place in this time control. And certainly with Knight still on the board, those are very tricky pieces. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if, all of a sudden, we just see, a blunder here and there.
Let's wait and see, but G5 has appeared on the board, and to me that's a good move that casts off any advances of the king towards the king side. And then maybe there'll be no much penetration because the H4 square has been taken care of, and I don't see much happening here actually, Victor. Unless, barring a mistake, as you said, given the time control. Maybe if it was a classical game, you could take time to see how you can maneuver your bishop, maneuver your knight, and get into good squares. But as it is right now, it's mostly unlikely that the players under such time control will be able to find the perfect plan to execute those moves. But again, I wish you could have the benefit of the engine to see what the engine is saying, but here we are doing our own way, and we are happy that it's going well so far.
I have no doubt that this is drawn even by an engine at this stage, and I really like the move queen to e4. Now, one of the problems I've had as a player is to know when to play for a draw and when to play for a win. In this situation, I would 100% recommend that Easter plays a move that would threaten a draw, unless now White plays the wrong move. Now, I had in mind queen to knight to f3, but there was a clear trap that had been played there by Easter, and that was if knight to f3, then there would have been bishop to g6, and the king would have to give up protection of the knight on f3, and that would have been a clear piece lost. So a very nice move there by Easter to play bishop to d4, allowing the king to retreat to e3 if need be. But something else that has happened is that now we have the potential for an imbalanced game. If the bishop were, for example, to pick on e5 at any stage, the knight is pinned, it can't move now or on the next move, then we will have an imbalanced position. The problem with that, such a pick would allow a passed pawn to suddenly appear on the board, and that, and
the
right
bishop
now,
has been trapped. I mean, it has to pick up the knight now. The king moves forward. Victor, I don't see any chance of anybody winning this. The bishop has been, Carol is on play, so it has to pick the knight on d5, and then the king will come to a more central position. The knight cannot really move far.
Brian, I would change that because, that's not really what it is.
Because
I was sort of hoping that Daphne would have picked with the pawn, allowing passed pawn to suddenly appear on the board. And now you have an imbalanced position of bishop versus knight and a passed pawn sitting on e5 and advanced pieces. Now, still could be drawn, but suddenly the game would have changed dramatically. In fact, as I speak now, it is.
Yeah, look at the time control. I don't think much will be garnered out of this position. I mean, if I was black, I'll just allow white to pick that pawn if they want to pick it, and then I'll pick my pawn, and then move the king towards protecting the other pawn. But again, as we say in endgame, the only one who has problems converting endgames, Kenyans, we have not been studying endgame. I'm a victim myself, so maybe if you might find an expert who will tell you, if it was a Ugandan guy, will tell you who is going to win here, because they have studied endgames and they really understand them. They know what position a win you can lose in. But again, as we say, time is really running out. Maybe I would want us to go to the Methu and the Oyamo game and see who was resigned or what's happening in that position.
Indeed.
We are joined here by Oyamo already. I mean, I don't know what happened. And Methu, Oyamo, what happened in that game? Did you...
That game...
just come here and join us here.
Thank you very much. I think I had an edge, but then what happened is I made one of that funny move about myself. When I'm up, I play hurriedly. So I touched a piece, the bishop, I touched it wrongly, and my opponent insisted to touch move. Of course, it's the rule, so I cannot blame him. So the touching the bishop was a mistake.
Sorry about that, but we have just been talking about how your desire to gobble up pieces and get into bad position when it's easier for you to win. So it's good that you confirm that. Methu, join us here and let us know what happened in that position. We thought you were on the rocks when you gave up the pawn and the rook came and picked the pawn. Suddenly you sprang to life.
To be honest, in that position, I thought actually it was a draw. I don't know. I didn't see any mate here. I thought it was a forced draw. So I don't know. Then he touched. Then he touched. Maybe you can
At this
discuss
point,
it.
yeah, at this point, yeah.
Okay, this point.
After
Yeah,
Oyamo,
yeah.
after he played Queen to F6.
No, after he played Queen 20, this is the point I thought it was a draw. After King F8. Because I mean, I go to the King G8, he has to check. I go to King F8, and then he checks
At
again.
that point, I thought maybe Bishop to G5 was good.
Bishop to
To
G6,
G6
check.
rather. G6 rather. Check.
Bishop to g6, yes, in this position.
Oh, you
And then you run away, and then Queen jumps in, bang!
Oh yeah,
E6.
Queen to F5 actually. Yeah, Bishop G6 check. King goes to D7.
And then,
Then Queen F5 check. I go back to King E7.
Not Queen F5, Bishop F5 check. So
Yeah.
the bishop improves his position.
Yes.
And
And
now you
then
cannot
mate.
cross over Cameron.
Okay, and then so if I come back to, so if I play King E8 again, then
Queen E6 check.
Queen E6 check.
Yes.
I just play Knight E7.
Bishop check on G6, King F8, and Queen F7 mate.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
So,
it's
so
more-
then-
it's more
Yeah,
something.
it's more
When he
vertical.
missed that move, Queen to G6 check.